So here's a lovely picture of what we mean by political engagement. This is the Secretary of State for the Department of Food, Environment and Rural Affairs. He is with one of our board members on a beach clean, and I thought it was a really nice example of the sort of work we're talking about. So working with political decision makers, what do we mean? As an organisation, we campaign on your behalf, really. You're our amazing supporters, and we take your voice to publicly demand greater, faster action to save our seas. And how do we do that? We demand that politicians deliver action in line with their promises. That's the holding them to account part. And we know that change happens when you engage all key stakeholders. So at MCS, we work to deliver public behavioural change, such as eating more sustainable seafood with our Good Fish Guide. We work with the industry, such as manufacturers and retailers on Wet Wipe campaign, for example. And we work with governments and policymakers, for example, through the Fisheries Act last year, or introducing a carrier bag charge in Wales, or banning cotton buds in Scotland. These are political decisions, and we need our governments to take action. It's very strange to present to you when I can't see you, but I hope you can all hear me and see the slides fine. So we work with politicians basically because they can help us to achieve the change we need to see. And then on to the next slide. How and where do we do this work? So firstly, we work through our campaigns and the media, because that work is directed at these political decision makers. Those are the ones with the power to make the changes we need to see happen. And that really comes back to you, our supporters. You help us give a voice to the ocean by writing to your political representatives, by having meetings with them, sending our briefings, and inviting your local MP to beach cleans and other MCS events. And we are so grateful for all your help. We couldn't do it without you. My work at MCS is focused on that government level of engagement. So it's focused on building relationships with the people that we need to work with and influence to make the change happen. And here on my screen, you can see that we work with parliaments in several different countries that make up the UK. So we work with Scottish and Welsh governments, and with the Houses of Parliament in Westminster, which is UK level, and then the devolved parliaments, so the Scottish Parliament in Holyrood and the Welsh Parliament, which is known as the Senedd. Here is one example, working with UK politicians in Westminster. So you can see 3 briefings at the bottom of the screen here, based on our different areas of work. So every campaign and piece of work report that we do, we engage with the political decision makers, tell them about what's happening, and work with them to either have a briefing, hold an event, or support their own parliamentary activities. And I think that's what's really interesting about working with politicians, is in the parliament and in government with the civil servants and ministers, these are people who are working on these issues, and we are supporting them to take this work forward, while also calling them out for inaction and when their promises are not living up to any sort of delivery. So here is an example of Sandy with a member of the UK House of Parliament being a blue carbon champion, which is a new group that you may have heard about, or you might hear more about later. So blue carbon champions are elected representatives who are working with us on this topic. It's based on the report at the bottom you can see here about why blue carbon and the ocean is so important in the climate crisis. So I really wanted to talk about the 3 different areas that we work in. So thanks to our amazing colleagues in the Welsh and Scottish office, we do a huge amount of work with those governments and parliaments. You can see an amazing picture here of the Scottish First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, meeting our giant leatherback turtle. And that is just kind of one visual example of the sort of work we do, taking our messages and our campaigns directly to those decision makers. And similarly in Wales, with our Welsh colleagues, they engage with members of the Welsh Parliament and with government officials and civil servants working on Welsh issues, because the devolved nature of working with politicians in the UK makes things, we can do it on a local and a national level as both parts. So what we mean there is we are working with them on specific campaigns. We are taking them to specific events. We're giving them briefings and information so that they can go and demand and do action. And also, when they are not, we're calling them out in our campaigning work. So we're going to do one example, which is our recent political engagement work at COP26. You may have heard this from other people. Here's a brief screen about our work inside COP26. So COP26 is a big conference with political representatives from all over the world. How did we work with them? How can we influence them? How can we hold them to account and demand greater action? So we did that within the conference by holding an event. You can see the invite here titled Hope Comes Out of the Blue, showing how the ocean is important for climate action. That had some really high level engagement with the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy on the Ocean. And we attended lots of events. We also, really excitingly, for the first time, were at the conference as a civil society observer, which means you can see here on the left-hand side that we are in the rooms with the decision makers, where you can lobby and talk to them about your issues, and you can also make interventions and participate in what the text, the outcome of this political conference should be. So for me, working in public affairs and MCS working with politicians, this is a really exciting place to be, because this is where decisions are made and we're working to influence them. You can see again this kind of high level political nature of the organizations within COP26 and the sort of events that we went to. And then the other half of this is outside of those political rooms where decisions are made. We brought the noise. Before COP26, we told the Prime Minister it's time to wake up and listen to the ocean. Here's a picture from a stunt that we did in partnership with another organisation outside the House of Commons and Downing Street, where the Prime Minister lives, where we took whale song very early in the morning to get him to wake up and listen. And at COP26, we did the same thing. We brought the noise. We really brought the energy about why the ocean matters in the climate situation. So we launched a report and we joined the climate march. And you can see some good pictures there. I'm afraid I can't quite see how much time I've got left, but maybe Lara could let me know. But I wanted to reflect on what are the outcomes of all of this work? Why do we do it? And I think it's really helpful to reflect that these big conferences and the smaller local level engagement, we're all looking and working for the same outcome. We are looking to protect our seas and make sure that people are not just getting away with making promises and not doing any action. Sometimes it's really uplifting to reflect on what has happened, what has changed, and using COP26 as one example, that decision was taken to make an annual place for the ocean to be discussed within climate change activities. So that's a really big, significant change. And in some small way, we all as MCS on your behalf, with you as supporters, talking to the politicians, lots of you got involved, you tweeted at Boris Johnson, and we absolutely couldn't do it without you. So this is your win, and it's exciting to see what we can do in the future. So I'm looking forward to working with you more. Please keep an eye on our website and check out our campaign pages about what actions you can take to work with political decision makers and hold them to account and be the voice of the ocean. Thank you ever so much.